I never thought my life would turn into something out of a twisted soap opera. But if you had told me 2 years ago that I'd be standing here, a single father, with divorce papers in one hand and a $2 million inheritance in the other, I would have laughed in your face. Yet here I am, and this all started because I made one mistake. I married the wrong woman. For years, I thought I had the perfect life. I, 28M, married my wife, 27F, after 2 years of dating, believing I had found someone who truly loved me. 14 months ago, we had our first child. And that should have been the happiest moment of our lives. Instead, it became the beginning of my personal hell. At first, I thought my wife was just struggling with motherhood. She quit her job, a decision she made, not me, and stayed home with the baby while I worked to support us. I didn't mind. I wanted her to be happy. But instead of adjusting, she became a completely different person. She snapped at me over everything. Didn't read her mind. I was insensitive. Didn't clean fast enough. I was lazy. Didn't magically fix her exhaustion. I was a selfish bastard. But the worst part, she treated me like I didn't exist. I can count on one hand how many times we had been intimate in the last year and a half, and that's including the months before the baby was born. I stopped trying. Every attempt at closeness was met with rolled eyes, sighs, or outright disgust. I kept hoping things would change. I told myself it was just a phase, that maybe she was going through something she didn't know how to talk about, so I offered therapy. She refused. I suggested hiring help. She accused me of calling her a bad mother. I was walking on eggshells every single day, suffocating in a marriage that had become nothing but a war zone. I should have left then. I wanted to leave, but I was scared. Scared of co-parenting, scared of the judgment, scared that maybe, just maybe, things would get better. Then, one night, she handed me the perfect excuse to burn everything down. She told me she was going to a bar with her friends. Fine. Whatever. I was so exhausted from her constant mood swings that I welcomed the break. But then she came home at 4 a.m. stumbling drunk, reeking of cheap perfume that wasn't hers. As soon as she passed out, I did something I had never done before. I went through her phone, and what I found made my stomach drop. There, between messages from her friends, was an ongoing conversation with a guy I had never seen before. Flirty messages. Explicit messages. And then, the worst part, implications that she had gone to a hotel with him. My hands were shaking as I scrolled, and that's when something strange happened. I didn't feel hurt. I felt relief. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I could finally breathe. This was my way out. Little guilt. No hesitation. But before I did anything, I needed to know one thing. I ordered a DNA test for my son. And just when I thought my life couldn't get more surreal, I got another bombshell. A letter arrived from a lawyer I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was spam. Then I opened it. My long-lost uncle, a man I had met once when I was 5, had died. And he left me everything. $2 million and a house in Ibiza. My head spun. This had to be some kind of mistake. But at WASN single quotes, my wife had betrayed me. My marriage was a disaster. My life had been falling apart for months, and then, in the middle of all of it, the universe decided to hand me an escape route on a silver platter. I knew one thing. I wasn't staying in this marriage. Other second. Asterisk. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at 2 pieces of paper that were about to change my life forever. One was my son's DNA test results. The other? Confirmation of my $2 million. Inheritance and the house in Ibiza. My hands were shaking as I opened the envelope with the DNA test results. I had been preparing myself for the worst, but nothing could have truly braced me for this moment. As my eyes skimmed the words, my breath caught in my throat. 99.99% probability of paternity. He was mine. A wave of emotions crashed over me: relief, anger, sadness, and something else. Clarity. For months, I had been suffocating under the weight of my marriage, crushed under the resentment, the loneliness, and my wife's complete indifference toward me. I had convinced myself that I was stuck, that I had no way out, but I was wrong. She cheated. She disrespected me. She treated me like garbage. And now I had money, a house in Ibiza, and a clear conscience. It was over. I wasn't going to fight for a marriage I didn't even want anymore, but I was going to fight for my son. That night, I waited for her. She had been acting sweet all day, probably trying to cover her tracks. She had no idea that I knew about her late-night rendezvous. When she finally came into the kitchen, I spoke, my voice calm, eerily so. "Where were you last night?" I asked. She blinked, playing innocent. "At the bar with my friends, I told you." I slid her phone across the table, unlocked. Opened to her messages with her lover. Her face went pale. "Explain," I said. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the phone, but I pulled it away. "Don't even try to delete them," I warned. "I already backed them up." Her eyes filled with tears. I was drunk. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "But you know what's funny? I actually don't care. You cheated this marriage for months. You just gave me the perfect excuse to leave." Her tears stopped almost instantly. The desperation was replaced with rage. "You can't just walk away from our family," she snapped. I smirked. "Oh, but I can, and I will." Her hands clenched into fists. "And what about our son? You think you can just take him?" I pulled out the DNA results and slid them next to her phone. "He's mine." Not that I ever had any doubt, but I had to be sure. She gaped at me. "I'll be filing for divorce," I continued. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Either way, I'm done." She stood up so fast, the chair scraped against the floor. "You're a heartless bastard," I shrugged. "And you're a liar and a cheater. Guess that makes us even." Her nostrils flared, and I saw it in her eyes she had lost. She knew it. I grabbed my keys and walked out of the kitchen, feeling lighter than I had in years. I was finally free. I barely had time to process everything before I got a phone call from an unknown number. "Is this Mr. Carter?" the voice asked. It was formal, serious. "Who's asking?" "My name is Jonathan Reed. I'm the attorney handling your late uncle's estate. There are some matters we need to discuss regarding your inheritance." I frowned. I thought everything was finalized. "There are details we didn't include in the letter," he said. "Would you be available for an in-person meeting?" Curiosity got the best of me. I agreed the next morning. I met with Mr. Reed at his firm. The office was pristine floor-to-ceiling glass windows, expensive furniture. The scent of polished wood and fresh coffee lingering in the air. He gestured for me to sit. "Mr. Carter, your uncle had no close family, no children, no spouse. He was a man of wealth and privacy, and in his will, he specifically chose you as the sole beneficiary." I nodded. "Yeah, I got the letter." He cleared his throat. "There's more." I raised an eyebrow. "More. Your uncle had multiple properties," he continued. "But the house in Ibiza is the crown jewel. It's worth nearly $5 million on the market." I choked on air. "Excuse me, and as for the inheritance?" He slid a document across the desk. I skimmed the numbers and nearly fell out of my chair. $2 million was just the starting amount. The real total? Over $8,000. Oh. My mind spun. I had been ready to fight my cheating wife for freedom, prepared to struggle through a messy divorce. And now I had more money than I ever dreamed of. The lawyer gave me a knowing look. "It's a life-changing amount. Have you considered what you'll do next?" I let out a slow breath. I already knew the answer. I was going to take my son and start over. Far away from my cheating wife, far away from my old life. Maybe in Ibiza, maybe somewhere else. But one thing was for sure, was never looking back. I should have known my wife wouldn't let me leave that easily. She always had to have control. The moment I told her I was filing for divorce, she flipped from anger to desperation, then back to rage. It was like watching a wild animal trapped in a cage, clawing at the bars, trying to find a way out, but I wasn't playing her games anymore. I had the money, I had the power, and I was finally done being her emotional punching bag. Except, I underestimated her. I woke up the next morning to a notification on my phone, a massive post from my wife on Facebook, airing out our entire marriage for the world to see. My husband is abandoning his family. After everything I sacrificed, everything I gave up for our child, he wants to leave. Not only that, but he had the audacity to accuse me of things that aren't even true. I gave him my love, my loyalty, and this is how he repays me. My jaw clenched. She was trying to paint herself as the victim. The comments were already piling up. "Oh my God. You deserve better, girl. He's trash. You gave him a child, and he's walking away. Leave him and take everything." I laughed bitterly. She had no idea what I had in my arsenal. I had her cheating messages backed up. I had proof of her emotional abuse. And now? Now I had the kind of money that could bury her in court. She was about to learn what happens when you push a man too far. I called my divorce attorney the second the law office opened. "Carter," he greeted. "I was expecting your call." "Did you see what she posted?" I asked. There was a pause. Yes, and I expected worse. Women like her. They don't go down without a fight. But don't worry. I have a plan. I leaned forward. I'm listening. First, we hit her with a counter-narrative. We release the evidence of her cheating. I smirked. I like that. Second, we file for full custody of your son before she has a chance to spin a legal sob story. I blinked. Wait, full custody? You think I can actually win that? With your financial resources? Absolutely, he cleared his throat. Judges favor stability over everything. You're now a multimillionaire with the ability to provide a better life for your child. Your wife is unemployed, emotionally volatile, and has documented infidelity.
Trust
me, this is your best shot. I exhaled slowly. This was it. This was how I won. Asterisk, I didn't hesitate within hours. Her private messages were leaked, screenshots of her flirty texts, her hotel rendezvous, and her sobbing apologies. And just like that, her army of supporters turned on her weight, so she was the one cheating. Wow, she really tried to manipulate all of us. I take back what I said. This is disgusting. Her reputation crumbled overnight, and then came the bombshell. The next morning, she stormed into the house, her eyes wild. "How dare you?" she shrieked, throwing her phone on the table. I leaned back, completely unbothered. What's the issue? People just know the truth now. She slammed her fists down. You ruined my life. You think you can just erase me? I crossed my arms. No, but I can definitely replace you. She froze, and then the realization hit her. I wasn't just leaving, I was taking our son. You filed for custody. She whispered. A slow smile spread across my face. Damn right I did. Her eyes filled with real fear. For the first time, she realized she wasn't in control anymore, and I had just begun to destroy her. Asterisk, the moment my wife realized I had filed for full custody, her entire demeanor shifted. Gone was the screaming, the dramatics. She became eerily calm. And that's when I knew she wasn't going to fight fair. She was going to play dirty. Asterisk, I expected her to come out swinging, to counter my legal attack with whatever pathetic excuse she could conjure. What I didn't expect, for her to go nuclear. The next day, my lawyer called me. "Carter, we have a problem." I frowned. "What now?" He sighed. "She just filed a counterclaim. She's accusing you of abandonment and financial manipulation. She's trying to make it look like you're the one at fault." I nearly laughed. "You mean the unemployed woman who cheated on her husband is claiming I abandoned her?" "She's banking on playing the sympathy card in court," he explained. "Painting you as a rich, heartless man who left her high and dry." I clenched my jaw. This is insanity. She's the one who ruined our marriage. He was silent. "For a moment, Carter. This is what people like her do. They can't accept that they lost, so they rewrite the story." I took a deep breath. "What's our move?" He didn't hesitate. "We destroy her case before it even gets to court." Asterisk, over the next week, we built our counterattack. We gathered more evidence of her emotional neglect. We hired a forensics accountant to track her spending. We subpoenaed her phone records to prove she had been planning to leave me first, she thought. She could outplay me, but she forgot one thing. I had money now. And money wins wars. Asterisk, the day of the custody hearing arrived. And she walked in with a performance ready. She wore a modest dress, no makeup, tear-filled eyes. She wanted to look like the struggling, abandoned wife. She took the stand first voice. Trembling. "I gave up everything for my family," she sniffled. "And now, my husband, the father of my child, wants to rip my son away from me." I gritted my teeth. She was good, too good, but my lawyer was better. When it was my turn, he eviscerated her. "Mrs. Carter," he said, pacing slowly. "Would you like to explain these messages?" He held up the text, her begging another man to meet her at a hotel. She froze. The judge's expression darkened. "And let's talk about financial manipulation." My lawyer continued. "You claimed my client abandoned you financially. Yet we found thousands of dollars withdrawn from his accounts over the last year, all spent by you." I watched as her fake tears dried up. She knew it was over. The final nail in the coffin. My lawyer turned to me. Double quotes, Mr. Carter. Can you tell the court where you plan to raise your son if custody is granted? I smiled. Yes, I'll be moving with him to my newly inherited property. A safe, stable home in Ibiza. The courtroom erupted. Her eyes widened in horror. I could see it in her face. She was losing everything, and I was walking away with everything. The moment the judge banged the gavel and granted me full custody, my wife's world shattered. I expected an outburst, screaming, crying, pleading, but instead sat there, stunned, her hands trembling in her lap. Her entire plan had failed. The courtroom had seen through her lies, and I had one. Asterisk, I thought that was the end of it. That after losing in court, she'd accept defeat and disappear into the background of my life. But I should have known. She wasn't done with me. The very next day, I got a call from an unknown number. Mr. Carter, the voice on the other end, said, "This is Detective Harris from the local police department. We need you to come in for questioning." I froze. What the hell is this about? The detective's voice was unreadable. There have been accusations made against you. We'd rather speak in person. Accusations from who? I already knew the answer. My vindictive, bitter ex-wife. I showed up at the station, my lawyer by my side. They sat me down, and then I heard it. She's accusing you of domestic abuse. I almost laughed. This woman who had spent the last 2 years emotionally tormenting me was now trying to flip the script and turn me into the villain. My lawyer didn't even flinch. "Do you have any proof?" he asked. The officer hesitated. She provided some. Bruising photos. Bruising photos? My lawyer smirked. And when were those taken? Before or after she lost full custody? Silence. "And let's be real," he continued. "Do you know what's strangely missing from her report?" The detective frowned. "What?" "A police report, no 911 calls. No medical records, nothing. It was fabricated. A pathetic last-ditch attempt to ruin me." "She's bitter. She's lying," my lawyer said. "If this goes any further, we'll countersue for defamation." The detective sighed. "We suspected as much, but protocol requires us to check." I was free to go. And as I walked out of the station, I knew. This was the last straw. Asterisk, I sent my ex one last message. "I know you're desperate. I know you're losing control. But let me make one thing clear. If you ever try something like that again, I will bury you in court. You're done. Stay out of my life." She never responded, and that was the last time I ever heard from her. Asterisk, a week later, I was standing in my new house in Ibiza, watching my son play in the sun. Fresh air, a new start. No toxicity, no manipulation, just peace. I had gone from being a miserable husband trapped in a loveless marriage to a free man with full custody and millions in the bank. And as I sat back with a drink in my hand, watching the waves crash in the distance, I realized something. I had no regrets. If you had told me a year ago that I'd be sitting in a luxurious villa in Ibiza, sipping coffee while my son played happily in the backyard, I would have laughed in your face. And yet, here I was. Free, wealthy, completely untouchable. The woman who once controlled every aspect of my life was nothing but a bad memory. And I was living the dream she never thought I'd achieve. Asterisk, I hadn't thought about my ex in weeks, maybe even months, but life has a funny way of throwing you a reminder when you least expect it. One evening, I got a message from an old mutual friend back home. "Dude, I just ran into your ex. You are not going to believe this." I raised an eyebrow, curiosity getting the best of me. "What happened?" I typed back. "She's completely unrecognizable. She looks miserable. She tried to act all high and mighty. But the second your name came up, she completely lost it." I smirked. Of course, she did. Then he sent me a picture, and I swear almost felt bad for her. Almost. She looked hollow, tired, aged, like the bitterness had physically drained her. Meanwhile, here I was, living my best life. Healthy, happy, thriving. If that wasn't the ultimate revenge, I didn't know what was. Asterisk, life in Ibiza was nothing short of paradise. I enrolled my son in a prestigious international school, hired the best nanny money could buy, and focused on building my future. I started investing. I networked with high-level entrepreneurs. And before I knew it, doubled my inheritance. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about never being powerless again. And I succeeded. I wasn't just surviving, I was winning. Asterisk, one day, While dropping my son off at school, I ran into someone who changed everything. Her name was Sophia. Dark hair, green eyes, and a smile that could bring a dead man back to life. She was a single mother, just like me, and from the moment we started talking, something just clicked. It started with coffee, then casual meet dash-ups. Then, before I knew it, I was falling for her. And this time, it wasn't toxic, it wasn't forced, it was real. She didn't need me to be her emotional punching bag. She didn't drain the life out of me, she added to it. For the first time in years, I felt alive again. One day, out of sheer curiosity, I checked my message requests, and there it was. A long, pathetic message from my ex. I miss you. I made a mistake. I see that now. Can we talk? I stared at the screen, grinning like an idiot. The woman who once thought she was irreplaceable was now begging for my attention. I could have responded. I could have told her how perfect my life was without her. But instead, I left her on read because some people don't deserve closure. Some people deserve to sit in the mess they created. I built a new life from scratch. I found love again. I gave my son the future he deserved, and my ex, she became nothing more than a cautionary tale. Because at the end of the day, the best revenge isn't anger. It isn't destruction, it's success. And damn, I was winning. That's the end of today's story. Did things turn out the way you thought, or were there some surprises along the way? Share your thoughts in the comments side. Love to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you haven't joined the community yet, now's the perfect time. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you're always the first to catch new stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.